The Summer Games Fest has brought us a new trailer for Kingdom Come Deliverance 2, and as a continuation from our first analysis video, I spent some time checking each of its shots in detail. In this video, I'll share with you everything I found, so we can get a glimpse of how the sequel might shape up. Based on what was shared so far, we know of at least 4 castles in the game. The most prominent one, of course, is Trotsky, that towers above the Bohemian Paradise region. Next is Malasov in Kutenberg district, where its concept art and screenshot were shared by Sir Toby on X. I compared these with the fortresses visible on the trailers, but none of them are an exact match. The closest one I could find is this, where the protagonists are on the attacking side. Just like in the concept art, Henry and the gang are standing on the outer bailey, surrounded by wooden walls. On their backs is the outer gate, and to the right of them, while facing the castle, is a shelter. Meanwhile, the keep is in the middle, and the inner gate is on one side, very close to a square tower. So far so good, except there should be another shelter here. But it actually makes sense to remove this, because the offensive force would have used its roof to climb over the walls. Since concept arts, in general, tend to be loose guides, it's hard to be 100% certain if what we're looking at here is the same castle. And even though the final version seems to have closely followed the reference, this screenshot was captured from the rear, making it impossible to verify. At the very least, we get to see this castle's battlements twice in Trailer A. First is in the shot with Sir Markvart and his cohorts, where the same inner gate and square tower is visible in the background, and later again after that wall section was destroyed. As for those castle sieges where the protagonists are part of the defense, this is when piecing things together got more complicated. But I think I managed to cobble up something. In Trailer A, we have 2 siege defense scenarios. First is what we saw in the opening shots, involving this army in green and yellow uniform with a Triskelion sigil. We'll call this Castle 1. The other is where Henry, Hans, Father Godwin, and the mustache guy, who I still think is Jan Ziska, are present. We'll refer to this as Castle 2. In that video, the relevant shots from both fortresses were shown sequentially, but in Trailer B they were used interchangeably, and what drew my attention to it was this part, when Henry said that he's not going to run away again, followed by Hans shouting at the attackers. These 2 consecutive clips are not from the same place, because if we refer back to the ensemble shot of the protagonists, we can see from the wide shot that their backs are against Castle 2's keep. If that's the case, then Hans's background should be a white wall, not a clear sky. So this scene where they had a laugh before the enemy assault was from Castle 2, but the snippet of Hans screaming and the following wide shot are from Castle 1, where he's most likely standing somewhere here. If we combine this with the fact that Henry in one clip is seen carrying a shield with the Triskelion symbol, it's evidence that the main protagonists have aligned themselves with that army. Hans in particular is present during Castle 1's defense, as emphasized by this shot, where the same soldiers in green and yellow are in the background. Judging this combined with the previous one, where an injured enemy soldier is dragged away to safety, there's a strong indication that the defenders won the battle. And according to my observations, it was a very narrow margin, because at one point during the fight, the attackers will breach the outer walls, and later the drawbridge will also be lowered, with the portcullis also raised up. We can tell that this clip is part of Castle 1, because compared to when it was hit by a trebuchet projectile, the gatehouse's cornerstones are very similar, not to mention these planks of wood lying on the bridge that look exactly the same. In this scenario, I think several of the charging troops managed to climb over its walls using these escalades. Going back to the panorama view of this castle, we can see that the outer gate is facing to one side. And if we are one of the defenders looking out towards the outer bailey, it will be located to our right. And we actually get to see this in the reveal video. Over here is the outer gate, and this bridge leads to the inner gatehouse shown earlier. So it makes sense that after the drawbridge was lowered, the attacking troops would have made a left turn, as seen in the shot that followed. As for Castle 2, it's a smaller fortification whose wooden battlements are adjacent to the keep, and the gatehouse is located to one side. In Trailer B, we see the same structure from another angle, with the attacking force approximately coming from this direction. Unfortunately, there's not much to talk about here, except for some examples surrounding the actions Henry will be able to do during siege defenses, like throwing rocks on top of attackers and pushing off ladders. As to how this battle might turn out, not a single clue is available. While it's true that we know more about KCD2 now, Trailer B also gave us more clues to existing questions, while at the same time inserted new ones that I'm eager to find out. For example, heavy windlass crossbows are confirmed to be included in the game, but whether we'll have a crosshair for ranged weapons or not is still uncertain. We also have a better look at the blacksmithing minigame, which looks like we'll get to create our own weapons, but what about the materials for them? Are they supposed to be gathered from the field, or can we just buy them from the blacksmiths? There's also the question of why Father Godwin decided to help. From the first game, we know that he is the youngest son of a noble family in Kuttenberg, and after his studies, he wandered the land for a time before settling down in Uschitz to become its parish priest. All the other background information about him are rumors, so it's hard to say. I wouldn't be surprised, however, if his actions are motivated by his family, and I wonder if we'll get to meet his older brothers in the story. But the most significant observation that I have for you today is with regards to Sir Markvart's army. If we take another look at Castle 1's wide shot from Trailer B, the text above this soldier's shield says, Praga Caput Reni, which machine translates to Prague is the capital of the kingdom. So it turns out that the troops in red uniform are from Prague, led by a nobleman aligned with King Sigismund. Hopefully, a viewer who's knowledgeable about 15th century Bohemia can help us out, because from what little I've read, Prague's army around the early 1400s have always fought Sigismund's, so I can't comprehend how such a setup could have happened. Now, a viewer by the username of Mutderzaz Bratislavi 6802 suggested that they are Prague Hussites. And if we take a look at their banner online, it is indeed 3 towers surrounded in a red motif. If Mutderzaz's theory is correct, that would mean a significant portion of the game will be set during the Hussite Wars. In that scenario, such a setup between Prague and Sigismund is possible, given that he was already the contested king of Bohemia at that point. The inclusion of Castle Malosov is also very interesting, because it was around that place where Jan Žižka's decisive victory against the Prague Hussites happened. And if I read this post by Warhorse Studios correctly, it seems that the entire town is in the game. So there is something to this theory train, and the only thing that's keeping me from hopping aboard is any contextual clue that points to the Hussites, such as the image of a chalice, which most of the factions used as part of their symbol. I was also on the lookout for wagon forts and farming implements turned into weapons, like flails, but not a single one of them from the 3 videos can be found. And if the mustached character is really Žižka, then he would have been blind in one eye already during that civil war, even in both eyes by the time Prague Hussites clashed with his factions. Those were my observations surrounding KCD2 so far. I would just like to reiterate that if you're knowledgeable about 15th century Bohemia, I'd really appreciate it if you share what you know in the comments section, so that all of us here can get a sense of when the game might be set. In any case, if additional trailers are released in the coming months, I'll make sure to update you as always.